What is good, folks? Welcome back to Podheads. It's your boy DJ Easy Zeke, and we are back with episode 17. And I got my homeboy, one of my closest friends, and an all-around funny ass dude. This is WakaJay. Welcome to the show, Waka.
Happy to be here, Justin. Thank you.
No problem, bro. No problem. Thank you for coming on. But you know, as we always start here, we're starting at the beginning. So me and Walker actually kind of grew up together, so I slightly know, about the area we know and grew up in, but we're going to hear it from Walker's perspective. So what was it really like growing up in Welcome, North Carolina?
Well, I went to a Welcome Elementary School, so real welcome resident,
Welcome
sure.
to Welcome is what they say when you come to Welcome, North Carolina.
Shout out the Buttses. So Justin was just a Western Guilford transplant, but we'll talk about that later. But went to the pool a lot, went to Welcome Pool, Dale Earnhardt used to come to Welcome all the time, so that was sick. Not a lot of people know that. I guess he was a regular there.
If you're familiar with NASCAR, Dale Earnhardt is a NASCAR legend, and he actually, I'm pretty sure, got his start with RCR. And one of our closest friends works for RCR now. I'm not going to disclose that, but shout out to JT though. But so yeah, NASCAR was a huge deal there. You said Richard Childress came to Welcome Pool a lot. Did you ever see him at Welcome Pool, or that's just fun fact you heard?
He didn't come. He wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
No. That was just a hangout spot, for the kids in Welcome.
And you were a lifeguard there too, growing up, yeah?
In Midway, yeah. I was a lifeguard for 3 years. That was probably the best job I'll ever have, honestly.
And going to North Davidson, what were your interests as far as growing up? Were you into sports and stuff like that? I mean, I know, of course, what you did, but for the people who don't know, what were your interests growing up?
Well, I played football, I played. I was on the team, But
me and Walker both did not get the most playing time as far as sports go. So,
but a lot of my best friends, played football, so that was definitely my interest. And yeah, that was I was on the golf team one year at North.
What kind of drew you into playing football? Was that something you always played?
Yeah, since I was in 5th grade.
And you played through middle school and high school too, yeah?
Yeah.
So what was, you were into golf as well. Was there anything outside of sports that you were interested in?
I was in Boy Scouts.
Oh, yes. That's actually a big point we need to talk about. You made it all the way up to Eagle Scout. Not only were you a Boy Scout, but you made it to Eagle, which is like the top of the top, right?
That's the highest rank you can get.
So tell us about the beginning of like when you were a Cub Scout versus when you made it to Eagle Scout. What were some of the biggest takeaways you got from becoming an Eagle Scout?
I'll be honest, I don't remember a lot about Cub Scouts, like through elementary school. Like my parents just kind of put me into,
What were some trips that you went on? Because I remember I went and stayed on Yorktown, I believe was the name of the...
I did that too. I have a funny story about that. They had a fire alarm at like 3 a.m. on the Yorktown, and we all had to go down like into the, I don't even know what you call it on the ship, but it was a big like lobby area, like hold area. We were all standing down there at like 3 a.m, like hundreds of us, because they had a fire alarm.
Like 10-year-olds.
Yeah, they were like, "We're so sorry." Like, go back to bed.
Probably absolutely scared as hell. Like scared out of your mind. You're on a cruise, or not a cruise ship, a fucking battleship.
Yeah.
But staying on those ships was funny. That was one of the funnier experiences I had. And I was in Cub Scouts when I did that. I didn't make it up to Boy Scouts. But did you do any trips like that when you were in Boy Scouts as well?
Yeah, we went to Cherokee, like scout camp, once a week every summer. Or somewhere else in North Carolina. There's a really cool one in Arizona. I think it might be in New Mexico, Philmont. Never got to go there, unfortunately.
What were you doing on these trips though? Were you were camping and like doing other sorts of things, learning sort of like survival strategy, I guess, or like
yeah, that's some of it. Yeah, everybody thinks that Boy Scouts tie knots,
Yeah.
You think that's
one of the scout camps I went to,
it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than that. Yeah, I don't know.
Scouts honor.
Swim and can't talk about it, but
sworn secrecy. Cub Scouts is actually one of the biggest gangs in America if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah.
So you went to a bunch of different camps and stuff like that, but was there a camp that was your favorite that you went to, or a trip that you went on that was probably your favorite? Like, what was the best location you went to?
I don't know. We went for a week to the Pamlico Sound, like on the North Carolina coast. But that was one of our big trips in the summer, so that was fun, I guess. Did some I don't know.
Were y'all selling, like, I know with like Girl Scouts, it's obviously big that Girl Scout cookies is one of the things they're known for. What were
we sold popcorn.
Okay.
We sold
Scouts popcorn.
Yeah. Ask Nick Wimmer about it. One of our former guests, I think. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was my first guest actually. Shout out Nick. Shout out Nick. If you know Nick and if you haven't listened to his story, definitely go listen to episode 1. But yeah, I had Nick on. He's also Eagle Scout. We touched on that, but. So y'all sold popcorn.
Yeah.
Did y'all go door to door doing that?
No, I did a lot of standing in front of Walmart and CVS with a little stand.
Did you learn any sales strategy from that as a Cub Scout?
No, not at all. Just be desperate. Have children standing in front of a Walmart.
It's funny they were recruiting you to make money for them, and you were what, like 12? How old were you when you were going out here in front of Walmart and selling? Slinging popcorn. How old were you when you were slinging the kettle?
Like between 12 and 15, probably. Yeah.
Do you feel like that was a beneficial experience when you were in Scouts?
It's a good story for sure. I mean, it was something to do for Scouts. We had a lot of fun. We did a lot camping. Whatever. We went on all the trips too, laser tag, that sort of shit.
When you originally got into Scouts, was that something that you had considered that you were going to take throughout high school, or was it something that your parents kind of just put you in and it just kind of turned into something that was more long term?
Yeah, no, my parents definitely put me in it. Actually, before I got my Eagle, I was like, dude, Dad, can I please quit this, man? Like, I got my Eagle when I was 16. And definitely by the time I was like 14, I was like, I'm done with this, man. Like, I powered through.
Did you catch any flack outside of the Scouts, like at school or anything, for being in Scouts? Was there any sort of negative?
Yeah, a little bit. It's nobody knows anything about the Boy Scouts. Like I don't know. It's just it's like, you're a Boy Scout. Like, what?
Maybe they should change the name to make it sound more masculine. I guess I'm not sure.
I don't know.
The Boy Scouts when you're 16 is kind of like, come on, man. Like,
exactly.
I know some people that were doing some crazy things at 16.
It's kind of cool when you're in elementary school, actually.
But for sure.
Then you get a little older, it's like, all right, what, you going camping? Like,
my biggest takeaway from Scouts was when I felt the coolest, and like I said, I didn't make it past Cub Scouts, but one of my coolest moments that I felt in elementary school was when I did some sort of sales thing we did, or some sort of catalog thing, and I got a pocket knife. And the first pocket knife I ever had, man, that was some power. It was like getting the glove of Thanos or something, man. You would have thought I was ready to chop some wood, or like, I don't know what I was gonna do with it. But so Scouts went to, you were about like 16, is that what you said, or 17?
Yeah. Once I got my Eagle, you're allowed to go until you're 18.
Is there any sort of thing outside of Scouts, I mean, besides working for Scouts, that they can like do for you as far as like getting you jobs outside of that, or like in like a park, or any recreational kind of role?
Well, if you're in the military, if you're in the Army at least, I'm not sure if it's the same for every branch, but being an Eagle Scout immediately gets you 2 pay raises. So that's pretty
really
cool. Yeah, even if you don't have a degree or anything.
Interesting.
And then outside of that, I mean,
that's for certain companies, though, right?
It's just for the Army.
Just for the Army. That's what you said. Okay.
Yeah. But outside of that, the Eagle Scouts is just a community.
Was it something that helped you as far as like going to college, putting it on your college application or anything like that?
I mean, I don't know for a fact that it made a difference, but I think that it was a good thing to have on.
Definitely show that you were helping out in the community, because y'all probably, selling popcorn definitely probably.
And we did food drives and all the sorts of things like that.
So once you got out of the Scouts and it was towards the end of high school, what was your kind of goals towards the end of high school? And you were the class president, so let's actually go and talk about that a little bit. So when did you become the class president? When did we vote for that? Was that our freshman year?
I was class president freshman and senior year, and then the other years I was on executive council.
Okay, so what was your role as the class president for the freshman year, and then we'll talk about senior year in a little bit.
Pretty much you had to go to the Easter parade, and
one parade.
Yeah. You had to be a part of the Easter parade, and I don't know. We kind of voted on some other things as far as like we scheduled homecoming events and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
But there wasn't too much like actual work that went into it.
No, there was not a ton of work.
So I actually want to talk about this story too, because if you went to North Davidson, especially, what was our freshman year, 2011, 2012?
Yeah.
So if you went to North Davidson between this time, you will definitely remember this. But there was a Christmas festival that we had, and the class president, or our friend Walker here, actually got to choose who was in this festival, and it was like games between different classes, between the freshmen, the sophomore, the juniors, and the seniors, and we had like, you can call them reindeer games, I guess, because it was around Christmas time. And Walker chose me, and we had these boxes, these like Christmas boxes we had to go jump over, and I absolutely busted my ass in front of the entire school, and I also cost us the reindeer games, I'm pretty sure.
I completely forgot about that.
The only reason I am reminded of that yearly is because of Facebook, so shout out to Facebook for that. But yeah, I see posts about that yearly, and I have a picture from it as well. But one of the fun stories, I guess, from me and Walker being at North Davidson together. So towards the end of high school, you were also the class president your senior year. What was that? Probably had a little bit more of a job aspect to it. Maybe not a job, but you had more work you had to probably put in, because class president gives the graduation speech.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
What else did you have to do throughout the senior year?
Well, we had the graduation speech, and then the whatever it was, like awards day.
Oh yeah,
that speech too. But other than that, it was just, you're just kind of a role model, I guess, for the school. So whenever, I went to like every basketball game, They
didn't know Walker outside of the school though.
Hey, don't lie. They knew me.
They knew.
I was there. I was in the mix. Don't lie about that.
That boy Walker was a welcome legend, I should say. He definitely was well known. Shout out to Faith as well, which we actually haven't talked about. You having a sibling growing up, so I'm gonna backtrack just a tad. But what was it like being so tight? Because you and Faith, shout out to Faith, by the way. Maybe one day we'll have her on the podcast, because she's a super interesting individual. But what was it like being so tight with your sister growing up? Because you guys are what, 2 years apart?
Three. I was a senior when she was a freshman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
I mean, it's funny because we never fought. Siblings always talk about having rivalries and stuff. I don't think we ever saw it that way, which is cool.
Because she was always just better.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
She was though. She was, and she is still.
Wasn't a competition.
Yeah, he baited me into that one, but yeah, it's true. She's a phenomenal athlete. Went to.
What was it like? Were you ever? I know you said you didn't really have much of a competition aspect as far as siblings, and you didn't really fight much. But did you ever feel like much of a role model for her? Did you ever feel like you had to kind of stand out as an individual, just to set the example for her?
Maybe not stand out, but just kind of like you said, just kind of be a good role model and do your thing and try to get to know what her priorities should be, so you can pass them on. You know what I mean? And
I said, Walker's a local legend. Faith is also a local legend. I feel like the Jarvis name and the Welcome community is just very well known. So shout out to the Jarvises. I was actually at y'all's Thanksgiving not long ago, and that was a great time. I got to meet all the cousins and extended family. So shout out to y'all for that. Shout out to Faith as well. But so what did you and Faith do growing up? Did y'all do anything hanging out? Did y'all I know you said you went to the pool. Was she ever a lifeguard or anything like that as well, or?
No, I mean, it's kind of, I will say this, me being 3 years older than her, it's you don't want your little sister hanging around all the time.
Yeah.
She's cool and all, but so I don't know. Until I don't think we really got extremely close until college age, but we were always cool. Do
you feel like having a sister in your life kind of changed your view on anything, or as far as maybe even how you treat women, or? I
mean, definitely. It's easy to see how that's affected me, for sure. You gotta know. It's just easy because she's told me things that she's dealt with,
Yeah.
That's and I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's made a huge difference, but it's nice knowing what they go through sometimes for having a little sister.
And what was it like being a part of the wedding? Because she just got married a couple months back.
Oh yeah, no, that was a blast. That was a good.
It was a great time. I was at the wedding. It was a phenomenal time.
Jackson's an awesome dude, and shout
out Jackson.
He's got a big family too. I got a big family, so. Yeah, it's going to be a good time, and they're succeeding so far. They live in South Carolina now. For sure. Which is sweet. But.
And Faith is a ECU grad, and we're going to use the ECU as a segue into college. So You got done with the Eagle Scout stuff when you were like 16 or 17, and you were class president now. You were starting to take on a little bit more of a role as far as like doing speeches at certain ceremonies and preparing for like graduation and stuff like that. But what was like applying for colleges and stuff like that? Because we spoke on it a little bit earlier, but me and you weren't the most athletically gifted, so getting an athletic scholarship anywhere, it really wasn't in the plan. No. So what was it like to go into college applications, just knowing that you weren't really going to have like a scholarship getting in there? Or actually, you end up having an academic scholarship, yeah? Or no?
I mean, I applied to Georgia and Tennessee and App, along with Carolina, which is where I ended up going.
Were those were your top choices?
Pretty much, yeah. I just wanted to stay somewhat close, but wouldn't mind being in a different state. And those are all good colleges. So, but my mom also went to Carolina. So it was like if I got in there, I was probably going to go there.
So that kind of swayed your decision a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. But I'm glad that I picked them too because, I'm glad the Shy went to Tennessee. That would have been cool being there with him. But
imagine if you did end up going to school and while Shy was there.
That would have been wild. Me and Dylan talked about that recently, actually.
Did you get accepted into Tennessee?
Yeah, I got accepted into all four. But
so how did it come down to making that executive decision to go to Chapel Hill?
I was really close to Georgia actually because Georgia's an awesome college.
I remember you talking about Athens.
And going back to what you said though, the academic scholarship.
Yeah.
So I got out-of-state scholarships, like a little bit.
Okay.
But going to Carolina, that was still cheaper than anything else, even with a scholarship. So that was part of the decision too. But it's still the best school of the four, in my opinion, my humble opinion.
And honestly, Carolina has a reputation of not only academic success but obviously athletic success. So what was it like to decide that you were going to a school that had the potential to go on and win national championships as a basketball program? And, I guess we could consider the football into it, I guess, but
we'll get there.
Realistically, right.
We'll get there
at that time, it wasn't considered. So
Drake May is going to be the NFL MVP within 5 years, for the record.
We were talking about this earlier. All right, we'll mark that down, that Walker is putting his money on Drake May to be the MVP in 5 years.
Yeah, so we'll see about that. It's going to happen. But
what was it like getting into Carolina, though? Was it like super intimidating? Because that's one of the bigger schools, or more, at least probably the most well-known in North Carolina besides Duke or maybe NC State. But I would probably put Carolina at the top. And I know you're biased. You're going to say you can't even put Duke in the conversation, but...
You're talking about sports or?
And just in general, just a well-known school.
I mean, honestly, I always hated State more than Duke, honestly. Like Duke, I respect Duke at least,
Yeah.
But State is just like the redheaded stepchild, so it's like.
It's literally redheaded.
Like, I mean, I hate Duke, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Duke sucks. But, State was always just like more kind of an annoyance.
What was your freshman year like going into it? Was it super intimidating, though, or not really?
I didn't know what I was getting into, honestly. I was 18, 19, so it's like I'm just going to college. I know it's a good school. I'm going to do what I can, and, I'm glad I ended up making a lot of great friends, so it's like.
Do you know what the student population is of Carolina by chance?
It's like when I was there.
I think ECU is like 30,000.
It was like 14 undergrad and 6 grad students, something like that.
Oh, so it was roughly like 20,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
That's actually a little bit smaller than I thought. I thought it would be like closer to 35 or 40.
It's not huge, but it's bigger than a lot of
The
places,
campus is like pretty big, though. It's like kind of spread out.
Well, yeah, we got a whole medical center, so that's part of it.
Y'all's campus is beautiful. I drove, when I lived in Raleigh, when I was driving for Uber, I drove through there a few times. But y'all's campus is like, especially when it's like sunset, because y'all have a bunch of trees and stuff around the campus and well. But it's a nice ass campus.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah.
So
when the dogwoods bloom, yeah.
That sounds like a book title.
It probably is. When the dogwoods bloom.
It sounds like a poetry book.
Yeah.
But so you got into Carolina, Chapel Hill, and you didn't really know what you were getting yourself into, but you said you started to make a lot of friends that you, I guess, didn't really expect to, and you were also in a frat. But what was that your initial goal when you got there, was to join a frat, or were you?
No,
nope. Was that spur of the moment?
Yeah, I mean, like, so.
Take us through the whole process of that, because I'm really unfamiliar with Greek life.
So, like, being from Lexington, I knew like 6 people going to Carolina because I was friends with. Going back to you lying about me not being known outside of North Davidson.
I meant the teachers didn't know you outside of North Davidson.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, that you're a degenerate. I can't even talk.
Oh, yeah, okay, right, okay.
That's what I meant when I said that earlier.
You meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes more sense,
true.
right?
That makes way more sense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It was a misunderstanding.
Okay. Yeah, so that's true, what you said. They didn't know what kind of person I was. But
In school.
But I was respectful in school. I did.
Exactly. And that was the idea they had.
Anyway, what were we saying?
The fraternity life and how you kind of got into that and what it was like to kind of rush.
So I was friends with a lot of people from Winston, as like by North Davidson standards, I think, you know. And our whole friend group was. We used to hang out with, you know, West Forsyth people, Reynolds people, you know, that kind of thing. So it's like, compared to a lot of the other people that went to Carolina from Charlotte or whatever, they already knew a bunch of people. So I talked to Colton Bodenhammer, who went to West Forsyth. That was one of the first people that I was kind of friends with at Carolina.
Was he in a frat?
Well, we were in our dorms together. Like
Okay. So y'all were freshmen at the same team or same time.
So we hung out some, and then I got to know a couple more people. My roommate Prim, who ended up being my roommate for several years, and we just hung out at that fraternity. And it was like, you know, we had a good time there. Made some good friends in the couple weeks that
were y'all rushing when you were hanging out there, or was this something y'all were just going? Okay. So what was that like?
Rush wasn't a big deal to me. Like, I didn't even know what it was really. I didn't know anything about fraternities.
So what goes into a rush though? Because I know there's a lot more fraternities than just the one that you obviously went to. But like, how does that work out? I mean,
you pretty much just like hold events. Like we didn't just party. We went to like bowling and go-karts and stuff like that. And like
with all the fraternities,
they all scheduled their own stuff.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, so to try to recruit people, you know.
And then they would kind of probably get to know you as well at these events.
Exactly. So we got to know them, and like where they're from. You know, a lot of them were from the same places we were, and so we did that for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then it's like you get offered to join by whoever in the fraternity.
Did it feel like you were kind of like applying again for another school in a sense? Because you just got done narrowing it down to what you wanted to join as far as school goes. But
one factor that I left out is Spencer Lanfried, one of my good friends, who also went to North Davidson.
ND alum. Shout out Lanfried.
He was 2 years ahead of me, and he was in the fraternity that I joined, Zeta Psi. We call it Zate. And
we call it Zate.
Fuck off. And so he was one of the only people that I knew that at Carolina, like really knew, you know, that I could contact.
Yeah.
And so we started going there too for that reason. Then it was like, you know, I figured they were all kind of the same at that point. So it was like, might as well, you know.
To talk about Spencer being like an ND alum and to kind of reference it to ECU because that's where I went. I never really took into consideration when I was in high school the importance of having those like older friends, because once I got to ECU, you know, I met Thomas and Robbie and like these older people that also went to North, but also they kind of took a role in my experience at college and just kind of, you know, taking me under their wing, kind of like you said, just having someone to kind of contact to like show you the ropes. Granted, Robbie and, you know, Thomas weren't in fraternities, but I was still able to hit them up and go to their apartment and, you know, be like, yo, I got this class, or how should I contact this professor? So was Spencer kind of playing that sort of role as well? Was he kind of helping you show the ropes in college too?
Yeah, in a way, for sure. I went to see him with Luke, RIP, my senior year.
RIP for real.
RIP for real. My senior year of high school. We went to Carolina for Halloween and went and hung out with Spencer for like a day. And, you know, that probably influenced my decision a little, whether I knew it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
and
we had a good time, you know. And it's like it's nice to know somebody that's already been there for a couple of years. So.
And he was in that frat, so he pretty much went through all the stuff that you were potentially going to have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
Once you know, joined.
Mm-hmm.
So how'd you narrow it down to just that frat? I know you said Lanfried was in it, but did you have to like narrow it down to like a couple choices, like the top 3, and then you kind of just went with the one that you liked best, or how did that work?
Pretty much.
Did they have to recommend you as well? Because when you see movies like Old School and they show the screen of like the projection of like, all right, so what do we think of this guy? And they all vote, you know?
Well, it's not that serious, but like
I wish it was.
It pretty much is the same deal, you know? It's like there's definitely guys that come and hang out, and it's like the brothers will come together, you know, the week beforehand or whatever, and it's like, how do we feel about this guy? And not everybody gets in. But
what were some of the crazier experiences you had? Can we talk about any sort of?
I don't want to dox anybody.
Okay, we won't dox anybody. All right. So what were some of the crazier parties you've had then? Because so our sophomore year of college, a little backstory. I went to a party at Walker's fraternity at Carolina. Me, my boy Cam, and my boy Kenneth, we all went to ECU, and we drove down to Carolina because Walker had this frat that he lived on a courtyard with, like, how many other frat houses was it? 3 or 4?
It was called the Little Fraternity Court, LFC. That's what we called it.
So we went to this frat party.
There was 3 of us.
3 fraternities?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're the one in the middle, yeah.
And it was like a courtyard in between these 3 huge-ass houses, and they had a huge DJ, all these parties, all these kegs. It was crazy. It was one of the crazier parties I've been to in college. When I think of college, that's one of the parties I think of immediately, honestly. But I know there was probably crazier instances than that. Like, what was probably the biggest party that you had as a fraternity or even as a collective in that courtyard? How many people do you think were in attendance?
We had Cherub there one time. That was probably
no way.
That's probably the one that I remember the most.
That's like the GOAT college band right there for white people.
Dude, yeah, Doses and Mimosas, man.
Yeah. I was about to say when they played that,
they were losing their minds for that one.
That might be the only Cherub song I know, to be honest.
We had them in our courtyard. That might be the best, or I don't know, most well known.
Was that something that all 3 of the fraternities kind of pitched in on together?
Yeah, we didn't usually get along, but on Halloween we would be like, all right, fine. You guys want to throw?
We got this big area. We might as well be cordial for a little bit.
Just for Halloween. Bets are off.
So, what kind of other holiday parties did y'all collaborate on? Or maybe it wasn't even holiday, but just sort of other mixers or anything like that.
We would have an LDOC thing. As far as collaborating in the courtyard, we would do like an LDOC party where we'd like tarp it off and stuff. And then
how many people did you say you think were at that? We're gonna stop in just a second, take a break. But how many people did you say you thought were at that party that you had Cherub in, or that Cherub was at?
Oh, I mean, there was at least.
My guess would be over 1,000.
Oh yeah, probably like 4 or 5.
1,000?
I would have to say.
Oh my God.
There's there's always more people in the crowd than you think there are.
Oh, for sure.
It's like looking at a jar of beans or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it was definitely maybe 3, but
Take us through a quick breakdown of that, because obviously when y'all do have parties like that, when it comes to pledges and people who've been in the fraternity for a while, you all have different roles when it comes to that party. You're not just at the party. Sometimes you're actually having to work a role or whatever. So
the pledges have roles.
Okay, the pledges only have roles, and the brothers just kind of tell the pledges what to do, like, hey, go pick up this or.
Yeah, no, it's pretty great actually.
What was that like to have Actually, let's take a quick break and we'll go ahead and change these batteries real quick, and we'll be right back. Word from the sponsors, and we'll be back. All right, welcome back. We took a quick break, word from the sponsors, and we left off just talking about Walker's experience in a frat and what the parties were like. He said he had a party with the other frats in the courtyard where Cherub was in attendance, and they had close to 4,000 to 5,000 people in attendance.
That's probably an exaggeration, but at least 3.
Okay, we'll say at least 3.
Yeah.
A second ago you said 4 or 5.
I mean, I'm just throwing numbers out, honestly.
Anyways, all right, so to the frat life, I was also talking about what roles y'all had at parties, because I know, pledges and brothers had different roles, but you were saying it's just the pledges. So what was it like to have a pledge once you made it through that status?
It was great, in a word.
One way to describe it.
It was 8 weeks at the beginning of each semester, and fall was better because more kids are coming into school, so they're usually the bigger class.
Were they 2 different crowds as far as how they acted? From fall to spring?
I mean, I do make fun of my friend Ryan Crandall for being a spring pledge, but it's not his fault,
Yeah. So what was it like, though, having a pledge? Being able to kind of tell someone that, hey, I need this beer from here, or go pick up so-and-so from here?
It was, I can't even describe it. It's just
I know we can't
we would be sitting, especially my senior year. Shout out to my roommate Prim, because he was very good at getting the pledges to do what he needs them to do. And we would just get food, get Chipotle picked up for us, come to the house when we're watching football on Sunday.
And would the pledges have to cover the cost of it, or was that something that y'all would just Venmo them or some shit for?
No, they don't give Venmo. Well,
they don't get it.
If it's food, then sure. But it's I don't know. If you're just trying to nickel and dime them, that's not gonna happen. So, if I would pay them if they ordered a Chipotle bowl for me, because those shits are like $10. You know what I mean?
I always looked at, and essentially I guess this is what you call them, but I always looked at having a pledge as like having a little brother. Like when I lived at home and my little brother lived there, I was like, yo, go grab me some chips from the pantry, bro. Like you're not doing shit.
Yeah, nah, and I mean, and we respected him too, you know, to a certain extent. But
it's like having a pet, dude. Like you're not gonna mistreat a pet.
We just kind of roasted him every day, and like that's what you had to do for 8 weeks, and then you know.
What was your experience like as a pledge?
I mean, it wasn't fun, you know. It's the saying is like, it's the most fun that you never want to have again, and that
probably helps you build that bond with people though too that you're going through that stuff with.
Well, yeah, you know, but it also sucks.
What were I know you can't talk too much about any sort of detail, but what was like maybe some of the meaner things that maybe someone said to you as far as like when you were a pledge? Maybe not what they made you do, but what they said to you.
It's not necessarily making fun of you as a person. It's just you're kind of like, it's like 10% of being in the military. It's like you're just treated like shit for 8 weeks. That's all it is.
me and my boy Loon actually talked about this on his episode because he was in a frat at Wilmington. But that's actually that's funny you said that, because he kind of compared it to that. Was like kind of join boot camp for a few weeks and you have to put up with a bunch of bullshit. But once you get through that bullshit, you're good.
It's nothing compared to the military. Like I'm not trying to make that comparison, but you just kind of get treated like shit for like 8 weeks. That's pretty much it.
So it was probably pretty justifying to get through it and then be able to kind of assert some of that authority that you were being given.
Oh yeah, you know, and some people took it over the top, like they had something to make up for it, you know. But at the same time, it's like we just kind of, I felt like it wasn't that fun telling people what to do. But also, if I was laying at home on a Sunday and I didn't want to go to Chipotle to get food, then I'm gonna make them go to Chipotle.
not to say that frats act like this, but this is just to go in terms of like people once they kind of get some sort of power. But the Stanford experiment, have you seen that movie or heard of
definitely,
that?
Yeah.
Whenever they have the college kids that are in the like prison reenactment, But that authority just goes to people's heads sometimes, and in fraternity instances, I'm sure that happens quite a bit. I'm not sure if it happened in your instance, but. In general,
couple, you know, there's, yeah.
Were you kind of intimidated going into the fraternity and like rushing and stuff like that, even though you did kind of have some sort of like, connect inside of the fraternity?
No, because Spencer Lamford that we talked about was my pledge master, and what's going on?
I'm just setting another timer.
Oh, and he was pretty cool to me as far as, I mean, like, I still had to go get food and shit, but he cut me some slack.
It's like a decently easy on you.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite pledge?
Pretty much just the class that we had when I was seniors, and they were coming in as freshmen. I love those guys. They were cool as shit.
Was there a particular reason?
They just, I don't know, weren't douchebags, you know. They made it. They were cool.
They did what they were told.
They were cool about the whole thing, you know. And it's like they knew that we were doing this out of principle, like not because I want to tell you what to do, but it's like I did this, so you have to now.
Yeah. It's like I'm not. Yeah. It was like the Jordan Last Dance documentary where he was like, "I'm not going to make them go through anything I wouldn't do. Like they got to go through the trenches, man."
Yeah.
So,
no, but it was we had a good time.
And you were in that fraternity the entirety of college.
Yeah.
What else did you do outside of the fraternity in college? What sort of interests did you have? Did you have a job during school?
I had a couple. Well, I mean,
I remember you said you worked at like a bar or something. Weren't you a bar back at one point or something like that?
Yeah, I worked at Top of the Hill, which is the main brewery in Chapel Hill. Very cool place. Go there if you haven't. Go Heels. But I was just a busboy there, but I was there for like 6 months, and it was cool being there, you know.
Was it a challenge to have the fraternity life, you know, and now it sounds like you kind of had a job outside of that as well and school? Was it tough to kind of balance all of that at the same time?
I mean, school and work, well, I mainly had a job in the summer, honestly.
Okay.
But
did you ever take summer classes?
I didn't. I did my let's see, between my junior and senior year, I took summer classes. And that was pretty fun staying there for the summer, honestly.
It is a different vibe when you stay. It
wasn't as packed, yeah. And, you know, I don't know.
People are still active, though,
You only got class like 50% of the time that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
How long into your college career did they win the national championship for basketball? Because they won
my
two?
sophomore year.
Was it 1 or 2 when you were there?
I don't like to talk about it, but our freshman year is when we lost to Villanova on the last second shot.
I remember that. I was in the library
Yeah.
when that happened. We were watching it on a laptop.
I was standing in the TV room in my fraternity house with like 50 people, and we just kind of went silent and like walked off.
Were you still a pledge at this point?
No, because it was in April of my freshman year.
Oh,
so,
that makes
yeah.
sense. That makes sense.
But then sophomore year, we redeemed ourselves, and that was sick.
And it's Franklin Street that everyone storms?
Yeah.
What was it like to go down to Franklin Street after a national championship?
It's wild, you know.
That's a legendary area in the college sports world.
For sure.
Like if
college
you know,
basketball at least, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
What was it like to go down to Franklin Street? How packed was it?
I mean, you couldn't walk anywhere. Like,
did you make it to the center where they start the fire?
No, I did not. I went to the corner of the intersection at the center, and then I was like, you know, that's enough for me. I don't need to see that.
It's just like an army of people though, like storming the streets.
Yeah, and they're way drunker than I am. So
that's probably what it comes down to when you are storming Franklin Street after a national championship is who is the drunkest and who's willing to push it to that point. Because you got people climbing to like light poles and stuff like that
sure.
too.
Yeah, there's guys taking pictures on the light poles, attempting to steal the road signs.
What are the cops doing when all this is going down?
They don't stand a chance.
There's too many drunk college kids. Like, who's gonna outnumber?
They might arrest
thousands?
a couple people if you're being like the number one jackass in that whole crowd. But
that's what it comes down to. Who's the number one jackass? So that was your sophomore year. They won.
Yeah.
Did they win any more post sophomore year?
No, we had a good team junior and senior year, but sophomore it was Joel Berry and Justin Jackson and Bryce Johnson and damn, I'm forgetting one.
Well, and throughout college is when y'all started to actually get better as a football program, and ECU went in the opposite direction where we got a little bit worse. But what was that like to kind of see the sports football program, grow a little bit while you were there?
It's nice, I think Mac Brown's a great coach.
You think football is your favorite sport, probably?
He's a great recruiter. It might be time for him to step into a lower role at this point.
To hang it up.
Yeah, he served his purpose, I think, coming back to Carolina. But it is nice to see they're succeeding in football.
They've been ranked the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were undefeated until week 7 or 8
this year,
and then lost 2 straight to
the ACC as a whole is actually becoming a lot better as a football. And then like we were talking earlier, which doesn't make any sense at all, but Stanford and who else is joining?
California.
And California joined the ACC, and they're still going to be known as the ACC, which doesn't make sense. So
what can you do?
Yeah, right. So they didn't win any more national championships, but you did stay in this fraternity throughout the entirety of college. You had a job outside of this, maybe during the summer, a couple times. Was there anything else? Like how hard was it as far as academics goes? What was your major?
I was a communications major, psychology minor. But
were academics super challenging for you, or it was just more?
It was challenging. Yeah, definitely. It wasn't in high school. I kind of just did my work, and hope for the best. But
you were ranked pretty high in high school as far as GPA goes.
Yeah, I think I was 12th or 15th or something.
What was that like then to become, more regular as far as going into college?
That's a good way to put it, because you were, there it didn't matter. It was, you just got to work harder, So it worked out good, I'm glad that I took those classes that I did.
Did you have any fraternity brothers that were in the same class as you, or in the same major?
Yeah. We all had 2 or 3 sharing the same major for the most part, unless, you were doing something medical or that kind of thing. Yeah.
And so with communications as your major and psychology as your minor, did you have a goal to become any sort of communications for a job, or?
In a way, but I really just didn't know what I wanted to do. I would say that was the main.
Was the goal to just graduate?
In a way, because, I knew that I was at a good school. At the time, I don't think I was aware of the fact that it mattered so much of what I was pursuing, I thought that I could figure it out later. But at the same time, I did take interesting classes, and especially the psychology ones.
That was personally, I had one professor my freshman year. I might have had him my sophomore year for the second psychology, but he made my interest in psychology just skyrocket because he was such a good teacher. But was that your favorite subject outside of professors, or was there a professor that kind of sparked more of an interest for you?
I would say psychology, because one professor that really stood out to me was the class that I took on vision, and kind of the neuropsychology of your vision, and it was she was a great professor, and so that made me really interested in that sort of thing. But yeah.
What about the this is kind of backtracking a little bit, but you were close with some teachers in college, and obviously you probably had to have a decent relationship with them being the class president, but did that kind of help you as far as success goes in college, just having better teachers, or do you think high school was just kind of like a little bit easier in general? Obviously it was easier than college, but do you feel like it was just easier for you regardless of the teacher aspect of it? Like whoever was teaching?
Yeah, no, being class president didn't it helped me get into college, but then after that, it's like
I'm talking about the teachers though. Did any of the teachers kind of help just your academic success, or was it?
Oh yeah, I mean it matters. It matters who your teacher is, and if you're actually interested in what they have to say, that sort of thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
So when you were graduating college, you said you didn't really have too much of a plan. What immediately happened for you post college? Like, what was it like to graduate? Did you graduate before or after COVID? I can't remember.
Right before.
Okay, so you still got to walk.
Oh yeah, I got to walk, and then I got a job at Lowe's Home Improvement.
And that was here or in Huntersville, correct?
In Mooresville, yeah.
Mooresville.
Very close to each other, yeah. And I lived in Huntersville for a while. I lived in Huntersville for a year and a half.
Was that like a 9 to 5?
Pretty much, yeah. And it was weird because when I first started out, like summer of 2019. It was a buzzing place, the headquarters in Mooresville. There was like 2,000 people that worked there. And then COVID hit, like, let's see, I started in June of 2019. It hit like January, February of the next year. So I was there for like 8 months and it was busy. And then all of a sudden, they kept us there.
Like the in-house workers?
Well, I was in the supply chain service. And like they cleared out the whole building. I mean, like out for almost a year and a half.
Were you working from home?
No, me and like 40 other people. I never worked from home during COVID, not once. And me and like 40 other people stayed in the headquarters and did our jobs, and everybody else was gone.
What was that like, being in like a ghost town?
Like it was so weird because I mean the building's very nice,
Were you able to stay productive?
Oh yeah. I mean, we got our jobs done, but
you think it was easier now that there wasn't so many people in the building? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. We were kind of isolated anyway when there was a bunch of people there, so it's like it didn't really change much in that aspect. But I don't know. It was interesting.
What was what were your coworkers like? Were they like the same age as you? Were you like in an area where it was a bunch of like kind of post college kids, or was it kind of a mixture of ages as far as that goes?
It was a mixture of ages. I mean, I had some good friends that were somewhat my age, 20s, 30s, but it was a good mix, actually. Yeah.
So, COVID hit and everyone started to go back home, and you said it was just you and like 40 other people that stayed there. Mm-hmm. And COVID was roughly like a year while that was going on, or how long until they started to bring people back into the office?
We moved offices, actually, like a year and a half into it. We moved like 10 miles down the street into Huntersville, and people didn't come back into the office before we left. So.
Did they just transfer? Because like I know for a lot of people, once they got moved out of the office, they just ended up staying remote permanently. Like in my mom's case, she literally was an office worker until COVID happened, and then post COVID she was moved home and she just stayed home even when they like opened the office back up. Was that a case for y'all? Did they just start keeping people remote?
No, like I said, a lot of people at Lowe's, they did. It depends on your job, I guess, but yeah. I wasn't remote at all, but they definitely did that for a lot of people.
And how long were you at Lowe's? Because I know you don't work there anymore, but you were there for how long?
Almost 3 years.
3?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I did not realize that you were there.
2 years, 10 months.
Were Were you in Dillon and Lanfried? Because you lived with Lanfried and Dillon post college. Mm-hmm. Immediately. Y'all got that house?
Nah, I lived by myself in Mooresville for like.
That's right. I remember that apartment.
Yeah, and then I moved into Huntersville with them.
Funny side story about Walker and this apartment reminded me of it because you still had Slick at the time.
I love that place, honestly.
But
that place was awesome.
That was a nice-ass apartment. Walker had this snake growing up named Slick. Thought it was a boy for 10 years?
A long time. Yeah.
Very long time. What's the life expectancy of snakes?
She was 17.
When you found out, or when she passed?
No, when she passed. She was either 17 or 18, yeah.
Damn, okay. So Walker had a snake, though, he thought was a boy for the first majority of its life, and then ended up finding out it was a girl. Had to change the name from Slick to Silk.
Yeah. Just switch the letters, took one out, But, I mean, you don't know on a snake.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're supposed to tell the difference on those.
She didn't eat, he at the time, didn't eat. And for like a couple weeks, and usually I feed it once a week, and they can go over for a long time without eating. I mean, a long ass time, like that she did for a while there. But she probably went a month or maybe a month and a half without eating. And we had taken her to the vet at like a month, and they were like, "That's okay, don't worry about it." And then we went back at a month and a half because she still hadn't ate, and they were like, "Okay, ran some tests." She's like, "Yeah, this is a girl, first of all."
First of all, you got it all twisted.
But it was. I mean. So I renamed her,
What was it like having a snake as a pet?
It was great. I loved it.
Because I'm not one for, first of all, I'm not huge on dogs to begin with. But to have a reptile, yeah, I like cats. That's my red flag. But to have a reptile as a pet, you got to be a different kind of breed. What was that like, having a reptile as a pet?
I got it when I was in second grade. The end of my parents said if I finished
Did
second
Cub
grade,
Scouts
I
have
could get a
anything
pet.
to do with this?
I don't know. I was fucking 6.
Because you're nature boy. You're nature boy by heart.
I don't know. I don't know what my motivations were when I was 6.
To have a snake.
Well, to have a snake. That was what I wanted to. Yeah, we went to the pet store. It was a red corn snake, and she was great. R.I.P.
And did you ever let her out and just like roam around the house? Maybe like chill on your shoulder while you're watching like Animal Planet or something? And be like, this is what you could be doing, but I got you in here.
I lost her in the house multiple times. Probably like 4 or 5 times.
What did Lisa is Walker's mom. What did Lisa say about you losing the snake in the house?
Well, I'll get to that. But I lost it the day that I got it.
Oh, my God.
I was like...
It was probably tiny as hell, too.
I was 6. It was like the size of a pencil. Literally like length and width. It was just... And I took it home. And I was building this Lego thing in my room.
For it to like climb on or live in or something?
No, like it just got home and I just completely separate subject. And
forgot about the snake.
Literally, I sat the snake beside me, was building a Lego, and then like an hour later I look over, snake's gone.
Oh my God. So what was the reaction from your family?
Well, I cried, of course, and then my dad came and looked around my room, and it was behind my toy box. It had moved like 5 feet, but and then it always used to, like, because sometimes after I'd feed it, first of all, you got to take your snake out of the tank and put it in a different box when you feed it. My bad.
You're good.
When you feed it, you gotta put it in a different box, because then whenever you reach your hand in there to get it in the future, it won't think that it's food. Yeah. So sometimes.
Fun fact about snakes.
Sometimes after I'd feed her, I wouldn't put the lid on all the way. Like I would think that I did it, and it just didn't clip all the way. And she would always end up in one of my shoes in my closet. I swear.
So did your mom ever get mad at you for losing the snake in the house? She was probably just like, after you lost it the very first day, I'm sure she was just like, all right, this is a fucking summary of what this
My dad was
pet's gonna
definitely
be like,
come on, man, like on the first day.
Shout out to Chad too. Chad and Lisa are both legendary in the Welcome community and amongst our friends, man. Very, very great people, man. Shout out to the Jarvises. Like I said, I spent Thanksgiving with y'all, so
Appreciate
I can't
that.
rave about y'all enough. But wow, we got a little bit into a wormhole with the snake subject there, but we were talking about lows.
Hey, that's a kind of a rare thing, people having reptiles as pets.
Yeah, not many people do, and you're one of the first people that I have ever known that has had a snake and not known the gender for the first half. Not only a snake, but a pet and not known the gender. I don't blame you,
I was
but
10. I was 10. What do you want from me?
To know the gender of your animal. Maybe she didn't identify as a female though. Maybe she identified as a boy.
Fuck off.
Anyways, we were talking about Lowe's though, and you worked there for like 3.5 or 3 years. You said. Mm-hmm. So what was
almost 3?
When you got done working there, were you were still living in Huntersville at the time?
I lived in Mooresville and Huntersville. Yeah. Well, oh yeah. So when I quit, yeah, I was living in Huntersville.
And what was your next step after working at Lowe's? Because this is 3 years post college. Were you thinking about maybe going back to school at all? Was that ever in your consideration? Because you're to give you your flowers, as much shit as I talk to Walker and as much shit as we talk to each other, you are one of the smarter people I know and care about education. So like, kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
But were you ever considering going back to school, even like post Lowe's or anything like that?
Well, I'm gonna go back to school soon to.
You just to wrap it up. All right.
We're good. Our friend here. So.
Keep going.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to school soon to get my electrician's license at our local community college, but that's only a recent development. Before that, no.
And you were doing a bunch of like nature jobs in between then and now. So you went to what, Alabama? Yeah,
I lived in Alabama for 4 months.
What was that like? What were you doing there? What was that work?
We worked for the Nature Conservancy in partnership with the Student Conservation Association, and we were just doing conservation work. I lived in this house in the woods with like 4 other people. It was a sick house. It's like 3 miles off the road, but.
What kind of work were you doing? Was this on like a national park, like a protected area?
Yeah, it was the Nature Conservancy land.
Okay.
They're a national organization, so we would literally hike out in the woods every day, and I told people I was measuring trees, and they thought that I was like getting they thought I was getting up in like an electrical truck. And like
getting the circumference of like an oak.
No, they thought I was measuring the length of these trees, like the
height of them.
The height, yeah, not the length, the height. But but we were measuring the diameter and
you also were setting like controlled forest fires.
It's the part of Alabama that we were in is one of the most diverse ecosystems in the Americas, and it's a small area of like untouched forest
for animals, plants, and everything like in between.
Yeah, in northeast Alabama. I almost sat on a rattlesnake one day.
And they're very, very poisonous. So is that like absolutely terrifying?
First time I'd seen a rattlesnake in my life.
This is coming from a snake charmer himself, y'all.
It didn't scare me necessarily, but I was like, it shocked me how I didn't see it, because we had already seen like 3 of them by the time this happened, and I'd never seen a rattlesnake before ever until I got there, and so I thought I could tell, I thought I could see him, and then one time I was measuring a tree, and I literally like went down to the bottom, and I stood up and turned around, and there was a rattlesnake like a foot behind me, and it's crawling away.
It was going away from you though?
Yeah, like it didn't even want to bite me. Like it was sitting where I sat, and
that's
it was
what they say about snakes, man.
Fucking bothering me, like yeah.
Was that the craziest kind of animal you probably saw when you were doing this work?
I also saw 2 armadillos, and I had never seen one of those before. They were wild.
I don't think I've seen one of those except in maybe like a petting zoo scenario.
One crossed the driveway right in front of me in my headlights. It was crazy.
I did mention it a second ago, but you were setting like sort of like controlled fires as well. What was that for? Or were you setting?
That was in Connecticut.
Okay, that was a different. Okay.
Yeah. That was my second stint with the SCA.
And you were with Alabama for 4 months.
I was in Alabama for 4 months, and then I thought I was going to join the military, but that didn't happen. And so I went to Connecticut for another SCA thing, and I was with the Connecticut State Park System, and we did one controlled fire there one day.
Was it majority like the same work that you were doing in Alabama though, other than the one fire that you set?
Yeah, it was more on the structural side, like on the corporate side of the state park system. Like I did a couple like community recreation days at some lakes and that sort of, and some research type things, but it was mainly like more inside than I was in Alabama.
And you were in Connecticut for what, like 2 or 3 months? Because you just got done with that contract not too long ago, right?
2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
And now you're a ski instructor.
Yeah.
At what mountain? Beach Mountain?
Beach. Yeah.
Up in Appalachian. So what's that like? You're teaching? I know you
fun.
Said you have predominantly kids, and you have a lot of experience skiing outside of being an instructor. That's kind of how you got the job, yeah?
Yeah, I've been skiing since I was like 10. Shout out to my parents.
He's a whiz on the mountain, y'all. I haven't seen him, but I've heard.
It's one of my favorite things to do, and I'm glad that I got into it at a young age. But
was it like going to be a ski instructor and not really having much, teaching experience, I guess you could say? Or did you have teaching experience leading up to this?
No, not really. I mean, I've dealt with kids and randoms. Well, I worked at the Dash Stadium for a summer, and ran the bounce house there actually.
That's kind of like ski instructing as far as dealing with kids
I
that
dealt
are
with
crazy.
Kids there. Yeah, but I don't have to like teach them anything there. And as ski instructor, I love the adults. It's probably like 60-40 kids, adults, respectively. But
what's your day like as a ski instructor? You wake up at what time to start instructing, and then yours goes until what? Like, how much free time do you get versus your work?
I live like 20 minutes from the mountain, and then you have to drive up the mountain. You need to be there by 9. And so it's 9 to 3 usually, 9 to 4 if I'm doing private lessons. But it's actually a pretty good day. And, we work on tips, but respectfully to you, we do get paid more than restaurant workers that work on tips.
Facts.
Yeah. And so it's cool. Some parents pay more than it. Yeah.
How much free time are you getting when you're doing these lessons, like, throughout the day? How long do these lessons last? Like 6 hours, I think, is what you told me a couple of days ago, is for like kids.
That's for the kids program, but if we do private or group lessons, then they're either an hour and a half, and I'll just do those. Throughout
Do you stay on the mountain
like
after you get done?
Sometimes it depends on the lines.
Did you choose Beach Mountain because you like it, or did you choose it because that was just like the place you applied?
No, I prefer beach. As far as North Carolina skiing, I think beach is.
I think that's probably the best slopes for skiers or snowboarders if they want to go somewhere in North Carolina.
Definitely. And I've been going up there since I was younger too, so I'm familiar with it.
What's your craziest story from the mountain? We do have to wrap it up in like just a minute or so, but one last question is, like, what's your craziest story from the mountain? Even if it's outside of ski instructing, just.
Could we continue the crazy story like elsewhere so we don't have to wrap it up? Because we're not even like.
Just do it in like a 2.5 minute summary of the crazy story.
I ran into a white woman one time.
specifically a white woman, as if everyone on the mountain's not already white.
That's a good point. I was talking to Cam about that the other day actually. I annihilated a white woman, actually. I didn't just run into her.
How mad was she?
She was pissed, buddy.
Was this when you were ski instructing, or were you just attendee?
This is like 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
And she, like, first of all, she had her 16-year-old daughter with her, and it was the last run of the night. I was just going to ski and wait and leave. You're like, sorry, lady,
Mm-hmm. Sorry, get better soon.
Don't stand still in the middle of the slope, But her daughter held my ski hostage because one of my skis came off in the collision.
So you had to be confronted.
So I had to talk to this lady, and then she took me down to ski patrol, and they interrogated me. And
did you get kicked off the mountain?
Well, it was the last run of the night anyway. They were just like, chill out, kind of. But because the lady was being a real, they didn't like her.
Karen.
Either. They didn't like her either. So
K word, she being a Karen.
So yeah, they let me off easy, but.
So the summary of this whole podcast, if you've listened to this point, is don't stand in the middle of the ski slope. Always look for where you're stepping as far as snakes go in the nature world. But yeah, I just want to shout out Walker and the Jarvis family in general. Thank you, Walker, for coming on episode 17 of Podheads. Shout out my boy Josh for the location. Any other shout outs you want to give, Walker, before we sign off?
I should have thought of this earlier, but no, I don't have any.
He said all he needs to say, folks. Well, I appreciate y'all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Y'all stay blessed. Have a good one. Peace.